All right, we're streaming.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, and I want to welcome everybody to the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Thursday, June the 26th, 2025. I have the time is 2:31, so we'll get the festivities underway. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. Do we have additions or deletions to the agenda? Nothing? Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Maria, thank you. And all in favor? Okay. And there's Adrian signing in. Um,
Hello.
Hi, Adrian. Um, the minutes of the previous meeting from May the 29th. Do we have questions, comments, changes? Lorraine?
I do, Brian.
Yep.
There were a few syntax, sentence structure kind of name errors that I have already sent to Lauren. For example, um, Adrian discussed the mapping project for the new interpretive panels along the Merritt Trail. I just added that we should use the proper name, the Historic Welland Canals Mapping Project. The grammar for a couple paragraphs above that, where it said Lauren and him, I changed it to he and Lauren. The very first sentence about the Ollie Fountain plaque I thought wasn't clear. So I did make some changes, not really to the content, but more. And then Laura in 7.2, Lauren was spelled incorrectly. Um, and that happens again in 7.7 and 8.1. And while we're in 8.1, there's an incomplete sentence. After moved by David Bergen, it stops at committee instead of be received, by whatever. So there's an extra word in 7.5. So just some odds and ends that I already sent to Lauren again that I could go through each one, but basically that's the things I noted. And then I also noted that um, there wasn't, and so I'm questioning this. I noted that some of the things that were said in the meeting weren't included. For example, Dr. Bergen's mention, when that lock one, I'm pretty sure that Dr. Bergen said something about, questioning why the name change, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Bergen, but questioning why the name change and that whole piece was left out. That's one example of different pieces that were left out. For example, why did we all of a sudden talk about the Welland House Hotel? Well, it was in response to and I had asked that question in response to something that was in the newspaper from James explaining why, that things were saved. And then the question was, well, what was saved? So there's some extra details. And I just kind of wondered if maybe there had been a message from city staff to make it briefer. The only thing is that it lacks some context
Right.
when you make it briefer. And so I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah. See, through the chair. So we have gotten direction from clerks that our minutes do need to be briefer. I think it's going to be a little bit of, adjustment. They were very, very long and very, very detailed for a while, and we were asked to make them more consistent with other committees and with council, where they try to have like the broad strokes of what was said and not the specifics, but still hitting all those main beats. So there will be some changes in to the length and the detail, but we do want to make sure that we are hitting those beats. So if you see any beats that are missing, then definitely let us know.
So I think that it sort of starts in the middle of of the conversation without, in several of them, without even a couple words to sort of set that context
Mm.
for that. It just kind of comes right in the middle, and you're sort of left wondering, well, what does that relate to? Or why would, what's the reason for that kind of a discussion? Or,
Mm.
where did that start? So there's a few of those. And so that's why I figured maybe you had been asked to be briefer, but I just think you need to establish that context so that people understand what's the background information that prompted that, what led to that kind of comment in a very brief term,
Mm. Yeah, okay. That
just a
sounds,
few words.
yeah. So definitely take the edits. I'll be working with Christian, and we'll kind of make sure we structure it that way with like context, then like the
Yeah.
points, and then the motion that was
Yeah.
moved, so that we can
Well,
get that all those points
yeah.
in there.
It
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be labeled as context. If you just put
No, no.
that set,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I know what you
Some
mean. Yeah.
little thing about why we went there, or what that had to do with anything. So there's that, and then the couple corrections that I've already sent you that I don't think change the content in any way. It's just more grammatical pieces.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Is that
I'll make
okay?
sure. Oh yeah, yeah, we can
Okay,
make those edits, and yeah, and we can still approve the content, and then make those
right.
edits, and then make those the final version. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah.
thanks, Lauren, for listening to me.
No, thank you. No, no, it's important. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to defer the approval until next meeting then.
No, I
We,
don't
we
think
can just
so.
approve them as
Yeah, we can.
amended.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
Adrian though has his hand.
Adrian, do you have
Yeah,
a
I
question,
just have
comment?
one amendment for clarification in the discussion about the materials that were taken from the Welland House to the museum's collection. It kind of reads like we got everything, and I think adding the word some material would be more accurate. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments about the minutes? If not, then I guess we need a motion to approve the amended minutes.
You can do that if you want, Ryan.
Thank you. Okay, so all in favor? Done. Okay. Item number 6, declarations of interest. Do we have any? Would be myself, Andrew, Lorraine, Maria. Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's both item 7.1 and 7.3.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, okay. So moving on, item 7.1, the Heritage Grant application for the John Brown House. I guess Mackenzie is here to razzle dazzle us.
Hello,
Hi, Mackenzie.
how are you?
You have the floor.
So Lauren has the presentation. Okay, Lauren, you're going to scroll through, correct?
Sorry, I thought you could hear me. Yes, sorry. You just let me know when it's time to switch sides. No, I'll move it forward. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Mackenzie Campbell, and I'm the project manager at the Brown Homestead. I know many of you are familiar with this site, but those who are not, the Brown Homestead is a registered charity based in St. Catharines, Ontario, located at 1317 Pelham Road. Founded in 2015, our goal is to preserve and maintain the significant heritage buildings on our site while demonstrating how historic site management can drive community development, education, and innovation. We're currently working to restore the John Brown House, which was built in 1796, which is the oldest house in St. Catharines. If you want to go to the next slide. Before we dive into the project proposal, I wanted to touch briefly on the significance of our site's heritage designation. The Brown Homestead is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act by law number 2019317. This designation protects both the interior and the exterior of the John Brown House, along with the property's historic outer buildings, which is the Norton Cabin, the 19th century brick dairy, and the smokehouse. This designation ensures that all restoration and conservation work aligns with best practices in heritage conservation. So from 2022 to 2024, we worked to restore and rehabilitate the first floor of the John Brown House, including the front hall, the parlor, the dining room, and the summer kitchen. We have now moved on to the rooms on the site, is where the loft is located, which is the focus of this proposal. If you can go to the next slide. So the loft is above the original 1796 kitchen, summer kitchen we call it, and it's one of the oldest surviving parts of the John Brown House. It was likely once used as a children's sleeping loft, and features rare architectural elements, including a barrel vaulted ceiling, stone corner fireplace, which was carefully restored in 2023 by heritage mason Patrick Van Velzen. So if you want to go to the next slide. I just put a photo in here because you can't really see it in the other photo, but this work has already been completed, but it just shows an example of the conservation work that we've already completed in this space. If you want to go to the next slide. So today this space requires both heritage conservation and sensitive modernization to ensure its preservation and usability for generations to come. So some of the conservation work that we will be focusing on is plaster repairs, floorboard and baseboard restoration, and then also masonry stabilization, which will help preserve the character and integrity of the space. So this grant, we're focusing on the modern additions, which include drywall, insulation, and which will follow updated lighting. All of this will help protect the loft from environmental damage, regulate temperature and moisture, and extend its lifespan. So as you would have noticed in some of the other photos, I guess the roof is just the metal sheeting right on top of our rafters and the wooden planks that are there. So you do see some daylight coming in through some of the holes that were covered in like clear silicone. We did look at alternatives to be able to insulate from above, but and keep everything exposed. But just based on you'd have to lift the whole roof up to do so, and then you would have to extend the stone courses all around, which would then really be tricky because then you're dealing with the integrity of the exterior, which we're looking to preserve. So instead of doing that, the alternative is to insulate from inside. A way to be able to leave the rafters exposed would be to insulate within the cavities and then drywall up and be able to have some of the wooden rafters exposed. So we keep the character of the space intact, which would be really nice. And then that included, you could see the strip of light there on the side of the rafter. That just is an example of how the lighting's gonna kind of come right over each rafter and light up the space up there because it is pretty dark and shallow. A new stair railing and gate will also be installed right there in that photo where I showed you. It is a little unsafe right now. We're not having visitors come in that space right now, which kind of limits us on some of our programming, which we would like to be able to extend throughout the rest of the house. So right now it's too unsafe to have people come in. Basically, there was at one point a trap door with a ladder that would have been there, but then John Jupy and the previous homeowner built in a staircase. So we are keeping that staircase, but we do need to make it safer. So we are putting a railing and a gate around that, which again will allow us to use the space. We're installing this into the floorboards that are right on the side there, on the left-hand side of that opening. There used to be a bookshelf there, so we had the floor extended. So that's all new material. So when we do drill into the ground there, it isn't going into any of the older floorboards. It is going into new floorboards, which is a nice thing to note. So again, this work is essential to stabilize, conserve, and adapt the space, protecting the heritage fabric while preparing it for thoughtful future use. We are committed to ensuring the loft remains as a lasting part of the Brown Homestead story for another 200 years. If you want to go to the next one. This project will be carried out by a team of experienced heritage professionals under my supervision. So the modern additions will be done by Stellar Contracting. Jeff has been contracted to support this phase. We've broken it into 2 phases. Obviously, we have our conservation work, which a lot of it ends up happening within house, or we like to encourage any of the heritage trades to also work with us. So I'll work alongside them, or we'll bring in some Willowbank students and work. So that's why we've broken it into 2 phases. So this grant does support the Stellar Contracting's contribution, which their project quote is $16,866. So as you can see, it's a pretty big budget. We have contracted 3 other contractors, but again, they are through restoration. So the contracts on those ends accumulate to up to 10,000 as well. So Doug Vickers will be doing the carpentry portion of this, which again has the floorboards restoration and the baseboard restoration. This picture here I put in is from 2022. It's the best picture I can show you with the loft cleared out. Again, you can see the work that we have done because all those floorboards are back down, and some of the baseboards are as well as with the masonry restoration work has been completed as well. So through that work, though, it has left some gaps in the flooring and all that. So those are the pieces that Doug Vickers will be working on. Madison Venatelli will Venatelli Contracting will be doing our plaster restoration, which you could see the walls there. All of that is in disrepair, and then same with the whole fireplace needs to be replastered. And then the Cron Electric is going to be doing the electrical, which again will be running up and down the rafters there. But all of that will be covered by us. So we are asking for help to cover the rest. This team is well equipped to ensure that the loft is restored with care and accuracy and longevity in mind. If you want to go to the next one. So the timeline for this is we are projected to have it completed by October of 2025 this year. Again, we are looking to get some, I guess, support in the sense of being able to start it and then complete it within the same year. So it will only be about a 4-month period of doing all of this work. The project, again, has been quoted by Jeff. So the one that you guys are aware of is that it's $16,866. So we are seeking the $5,000 through the Designated Heritage Grant, which will contribute significantly towards the overall cost of the project. This funding will support essential conservation work while helping us maintain accessibility, safety, and environmental protection for this historic space. I'm going to go to the next slide. The John Brown House loft is an important part of our designation. And the work is about more than just the repairs. It's about safeguarding our shared history. With this rehabilitation, we'll preserve a meaningful, character-rich space while making it accessible for volunteers, visitors, and future programming. This generous support of this grant would make this essential work possible and ensure that the loft continues to be a part of the Brown Homestead's living story for generations to come. And then the next slide. So thank you for your time and consideration, and we appreciate the opportunity to share this proposal and welcome any questions that you guys may have.
I think because so many of our members have declared a conflict of interest in here, so I'm going to be facilitating any conversation. Does anyone have any questions or any comments on the work?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The the plaster, is it, has there been many repairs done in that area using just like modern plaster, or is you or is it going to be traditional lime plaster in there too?
Yeah, so that space actually was largely untouched. It has been used for storage for most of probably 5 decades now. It hasn't been repaired. John did. It looks like he did a bit of restoration just on the. So basically, that section is well, I guess the larger 1802, 1804, the house that you guys see from Pelham Road, that was added onto the summer kitchen and loft section. So that it was you could tell over time that he had to do some masonry and plaster really filling in between the two, because you could tell that where the roof has been replaced over time, some water damage had come down. Same with one of the corners. I guess when John purchased the property, that section of roofing was in pretty bad condition. So he's done restoration there. It From my understanding, it looks more like it's more modern materials, just based on what he's done through the rest of the house and just the texture of it. That will be taken off, and we will do like restoration on that portion. We do, when any of the lime or any of the stone structure, we will use lime plaster. And then honestly, when it comes to some of the stronger sections, we will probably end up using metal lath to make it tighter in there, because it is, we've noticed that throughout the house, a lot of when we do have to do plaster restoration on the stonework, it's hard to try to really conserve it because it's so old that a lot of the times it just ends up crumbling because it is wet and it is damaged. Where if it was on a wooden lath wall, we'd be able to actually add some adhesive or do some other methods of injection to be able to secure it to the wall. So if that kind of helps answer.
Yeah, it does. I do have a comment on what you said about putting plaster on stone. If you have a wall that's solid and repointed and it's not crumbling like you said, you get rid of all the crumbling, make sure that you have a solid wall. What helps is to put a lime wash on the stone first, and then that helps as a binding agent for the lime plaster that you're putting on after. So in that case, then you don't need the lath.
Right. So rather than just wetting it, if you put a lime and add some substrate to it.
Yeah, like it's more like a lime wash. It would be more like water that you could spray on too. With
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We do have to add. Thank you for that suggestion. We do have to add lime wash to the beams there that you could see that are exposed right above the plaster, because that's what it was. So actually, when you go into that space, the whole ceiling and everything was lime wash. So we are doing lime wash in a lot of it. So that's a good point. Okay, thank you for the tip.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? I
just have a quick question too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Through the chair, I just had a quick question to the presenter. Thank you for the presentation. So you said the public and volunteers will be using the loft space. Is there, like you went through the pictures pretty quick, is there like an HVAC? Is there any cooling or heating up there? Or is that just the loft space is just open and?
Yep. So we the whole house actually got HVAC put in. So we do have HVAC. We did. That's why. Part of the flooring was taken out at one point. So yes, we do. There is a system to be able to heat and cool it and take in for, and that's why we're looking to insulate it as well to make sure that the whole space is regulated properly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So if there are no further questions or comments, I have a motion up here. that the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee recommends approval of the Heritage Grant application for the property at 1317 Pelham Road for the restoration of the loft at John Brown House for 50% of the eligible restoration costs up to a maximum of $5,000. The reason why we've structured it like this is just some feedback from finance because the actual like final invoices aren't in yet. We don't know the actual cost, so that gives us the flexibility to say yes, it was more or it was less, but it was for that 50% up to a maximum of $5,000. Does anyone want to make that motion? No? Oh, Robert? Yeah. In a second. Yeah. Oh, Holly. Okay. And all in favor? Yep. Okay. There we go. And that passes. Good job. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and making that presentation. Always very interesting to see the work that you are doing. And I'll be in touch with next steps and also, looking forward to see the work as it's done. So thank you again.
Thank you. We'll share the updates while the progress happens. Thank you very
Really
much,
appreciate
everybody.
it. Thank you. Thanks so much, Mackenzie.
Okay, so I'm back.
Yep, you're back now.
I just had one question, and maybe Andrew, you can answer this one. That barrel vaulting that's in that loft area I guess that's unique to just that area of the house. Was there some reason why barrel vaulting was used in there and not in other areas?
Well, that's a good question. The rationale for it is unclear. If you notice in the rafters in the foreground of the photo, closest to the camera, they aren't there. And there was at one point we found the remnants of a rough partition that separated that loft into two spaces, and it was the further space that had the barrel vaulting. The outer space is the one that was whitewashed and didn't have the barrel vaulting. So it's kind of interesting. The whys are unclear, and but it's the only instance of it in the house. Yes.
And
Um,
is that the timbers for that barrel vaulting, is that like the natural shape that the tree log would have been that it was made out of, or were they crafted like hewn into that barrel vault shape?
No, they were definitely crafted, and if you both in terms of the roof construction and the lumber that was used, both the roof over the loft and in the attic over the main part of the house, it appears were totally rebuilt around 1900. So so that it would have been after that point, but all those roof timbers and so on are not original at
Right.
this point, which is why you see that more Victorian centerboard down the middle of both.
Right. Okay.
Fortunately, they kept the original Georgian pitch when they rebuilt it, which is nice.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so I guess we're moving on to item 7.2, which is the Part 4 designation of 3 Elizabeth Street. So, Lauren, take it away.
Gotta get set up here for a second. Hold on. So I woke up this morning with a sore throat, and I fear that I'm losing my voice. So I am going to make my presentation, but it's going to be probably a little bit shorter than I originally planned. But we'll go through the process to date with this property, the 906 evaluation, and the proposed statement of cultural value or interest in the heritage attributes for it. So, the process to date. So 3 Elizabeth Street was prioritized for designation by the designation subcommittee following changes introduced by Bill 23, which require listed properties to be designated by the end of 2026 or removed from the register. The property is currently listed on the Heritage Register. The owner, Dr. Richard Cheel, has expressed support for the designation. Andrew and I met with him and went through the heritage attributes with him, and he had some questions, and it was a very good meeting. The a historical overview was prepared by Andrew and Brian. I'm going to go through a really high level, property history, but I do recommend everyone look through that historical overview, which I circulated with the memo, because it's very fascinating and it has lots of cool information in it. And then through our work, a 906 evaluation has been completed. The designation subcommittee found that the property meets multiple criteria for designation under OREG 906. And we are bringing the recommendation to designate the property forward to the committee for their support. The designation subcommittee has also reviewed the statement of culture, heritage, value, or interest and the heritage attributes, and is determined that the property meets the criteria for designation for Part 4 under the Ontario Heritage Act. Just some quick property background. 3 Elizabeth Street is located in a mature residential neighborhood northwest of downtown near Lake Street. Legal description is Plan 2, Block T, Lot 16, and it was originally part of the 1872 subdivision plan prepared by Calvin Brown, St. Catharines' first mayor. This lot was originally purchased in 1877 by Francis P. Beggy Sr., a prominent local tradesman. In 1882, the lot was sold to Frank P. Beggy Jr., and it's believed that the dwelling was constructed around 1880 for Frank. Frank Beggy Jr. was a painter, paper hanger, merchant, and served as fire chief for the city. And the house remained in the Beggy family for nearly a century, eventually passing to Irene Crowley and then Lois, who sold it out of the family in 1972. As far as the architectural style and features, the house is a vernacular example of Gothic Revival architecture. Key architectural elements are its L plan, which you can kind of see very clearly here, with a steeply pitched front gable roof. It has decorative barge board with scroll cut detailing and paired brackets, a projecting bay window on the front facade, and an elaborately detailed open porch with turned columns and ornamental brackets. There is a thick stucco exterior, probably applied during the 1920s addition, which you can see at the back here. It was put to the back of the building. The building retains a high level of architectural integrity with its original massing, trim and openings intact. The windows are not original, but the window openings and frames are believed to be. So the neighborhood that it's located within is defined by late 19th century and early 20th century working class housing, developed as part of the 1872 plan by Calvin Brown. The home is visually and historically linked to other dwellings in the neighborhood, which produce a cohesive streetscape, and it reflects early urban development patterns, urban and suburban development patterns in post-canal St. Catharines, and we believe it remains an integral part of the city's built heritage. So here, this is this iron fence, and this designation subcommittee had some interest in this fence, and Dr. Cheel provided us with some photos after our meeting with him. And here's one from late 70s, early 80s, and you can see there's no fence here, and also you can see the house painted slightly differently than it is today. It also went through a period where it was completely white. So it was cool to see the evolution of the building with all the features intact there. So what I'm going to do is the right one. Yes, it is. I'm just going to go through the 906 evaluation. You know, after Bill 23 was introduced, they changed the threshold for designation to a property has to meet 2 of these criteria in order to qualify for Part 4 designation. They're still roughly organized the same, even though the categories don't exist anymore. So I like to include them. So we found that the category, or sorry, the property is a rare, unique, representative, or early example of a late 19th century Gothic revival vernacular architecture. So it meets that criteria. We determined that it displays a high degree of craftsmanship or artistic merit in the applied woodwork, including the scroll cut barge board, brackets, and turned porch columns. The property does not demonstrate a high degree of technical or scientific achievement, as displays era typical features. Has direct associations with the Beggy family, who's Francis P. Beggy is an early civic leader and tradesman, and along with their long occupation of the site, connects and contributes to the social and economic narrative of the city. The property contributes to an understanding of the early urban settlement patterns in St. Catharines and the development of working class neighborhoods in the post-canal era. There's no identified association with a known architect or designer. It's while we have some suspicions. The house contributes to the established character of the Elizabeth Street neighborhood. And it is historically and visually linked to the surrounding streetscape, which is a reflection of the 1872 subdivision. So seeing that this property meets multiple criteria, way more than 2, we moved on to putting together the draft statement of cultural heritage value or interest. I guess just before we go through this, I was wondering if anyone had any questions or comments or wanted to have a little bit of discussion before we go through the statement. Andrew?
Andrew?
Just because people were so interested in the fence, I did a little research after we were there, and something I found that the nameplate says the Stewart Metalworks in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I did a little research on the company. They originally were from Kentucky, and they opened their Cincinnati factory in 1906. So it would be from after 1906, and apparently you can send photos to the company of some of the details, and they will help you to data. They keep catalogs of all their fencing. They were big in 2 things. One was metal fencing, and one was jail cells. They apparently did all of the metal doors in Alcatraz. So just a little interesting tidbit that I found.
Oh, wow. Well, that's very, very interesting. And so we know that the fence is at least after, 1906. I still think that it's consistent with the character of the building and should be included. But yeah, I think we should definitely send in some pictures and get a more accurate date. I think that'd be very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, I'll go through the draft statement. So just as really high level, the Ministry of uh, um, Citizenship and Multiculturalism, the MCM, which right now is the Ministry of Culture, recently came out with a new Ontario Heritage Toolkit, which provided stronger guidance for how 906 was to be applied and in how these statements are to be structured. So if there's any differences, definitely bring them up, but we'll have that conversation. So each statement starts with a description of property. 3 Elizabeth Street is located on the south side of Elizabeth Street, west of Lake Street, within a mature residential neighborhood northwest of downtown St. Catharines. The property contains a 1.5-story stucco-clad front gabled L-plan dwelling constructed circa 1880 with decorative Gothic Revival elements, including uh, steeped, steeply pitched gables, decorative bargeboard, and ornate woodwork. The actual statement goes through each of the 3 criteria and explains why they meet those criteria. So for design or physical value, the property is a representative and well-preserved example of a late 19th century vernacular Gothic Revival dwelling. It is characterized by its steeply pitched gable roofs, decorative barge board with scroll-cut detailing, dentils, paired brackets, and a projecting bay window. The use of the bay window, elaborately turned porch columns, and applied decorative woodwork reflect the high degree of craftsmanship and artistic merit typical of the Gothic Revival style. The retention of its original massing, window openings, and architectural details contributes to the property's high degree of integrity. Historical or associative value. 3 Elizabeth Street is directly associated with the Beggy family, particularly Francis B. Beggy Jr., early civic leader, painter, merchant, and fire chief of St. Catharines in the late 19th century. The property was built and occupied by Beggy Jr. and his family, who contributed to the city's civic life, trades, and business community. The Beggy family's longstanding ownership and occupation of the property from the 1880s through the mid 20th century reflects patterns of residential settlement, family inheritance, and working class neighborhood development in St. Catharines. The property also contributes to understanding of the city's post-canal growth as the area was developed following the subdivision of Mayor Calvin Brown's lands in the early 1870s. Contextual value. The property contributes to the historic residential character of the Elizabeth Street neighborhood, which is composed of late 19th and early 20th century homes. It supports the continuity of the streetscape through its form, scale, and architectural detailing, and is visually and historically linked to the broader urban pattern established through Brown subdivision. The dwelling remains part of a stable residential enclave that reflects early urban development patterns in St. Catharines, contributing to the understanding of the city's working class housing stock. 3 Elizabeth Street forms an important component of the local streetscape and supports the overall historic character of the area. Any comments, concerns, edits? I have this open up in a Word document, so if there's any edits that people would like to see, I can live edit them. Yes. All right.
Lorraine, you've got a question?
Yeah, I totally would agree with the designation of this property. So my question is sort of incidental. Does it need any restoration work? You've been inside of it, right, Lauren and Andrew? So what's it like inside? Is it in good living shape, or does it need restoration work?
I mean, like through the chair. I mean, it's an older home. And all we were talking with the owner about like some of the restoration work that he would like to do to the building. He has plans, but it is very well maintained as a home. A lot of the interior has been renovated and restored multiple times throughout its history. So there isn't a lot of original material inside the home. There's a major renovation in the 1920s. I think that would have removed a lot of the original interior. But yeah, so I think the house is in very good shape. But of course, like all old homes, there's restoration work to be done, and the owner was interested in our grant program for that reason. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And so the last component here is the heritage attributes. These are the most important things from in my perspective, because these are the things that the elements of the building that are supposed to express its value, and also the elements that all future heritage permit applications or alterations are compared against. So we want to make sure that both includes everything that is important and also doesn't include things that maybe we don't want to be taken into consideration in the future if it doesn't contribute to the character of the building. So the key heritage attributes that reflect the property's cultural heritage value include the 1.5-story L-plan massing with a front gable orientation, the steeply pitched gable roofs and cross-gabled side extension, the decorative barge boards, scroll-cut woodwork, and dental trim on the front gable and paired brackets at the eaves, the projecting bay window on the front facade, including its configuration and window openings, the 1-story or open porch with elaborately turned columns, applied brackets, and ornamental trim, the stucco wall cladding and its visual expression, the historic window openings and configurations, the property's setting, including the low ornamental metal fence, mature vegetation, and garden-style landscaping, and the property siting within the original 1872 subdivision by Calvin Brown, maintaining its historic orientation to the street and its relationship with adjacent heritage dwellings. Adjacent dwellings. So, any comments, concerns, edits, additions, especially we can add at this time too.
So if we're talking about the garden style landscaping being one of the heritage attributes, is that going to have any implications for the owner in future if they want to, you know, plant a different kind of rose bush or anything like that? I mean, or does it always have to remain as a garden area? Like, let's say they don't want to have a garden, they want to put grass in the whole front yard or something. Is that something that they're going to have to come back to the advisory committee and ask, you know, permission for that?
I guess yes. Through the chair, I think that's one thing important thing to have a conversation about is that yeah, in this case, if there were major changes to the landscaping, that they'd need a heritage permit for that. It's not that they could never change it, you know, if they wanted to put it, just make grass or you know they wanted to change it in a significant way, but they would have to come back to the committee. So that is something that especially since we're talking about how the fence isn't necessarily you know original, it's more recent, well, potentially more recent addition. You know, is that it definitely contributes to the character of the building and to the landscape, but is it something that we want to protect in that way? That is an excellent question. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it certainly is something that's worth mentioning as an attribute. And that way, if there are any really unique plantings that they've had there, let's say there's a plant that, you know, the Baggy family planted in, you know, 1890 or something that's still growing there. Maybe it's going to give some little bit of protection to that poor little plant too, you know. Andrew, you've got a question?
Well, it's really related to your point, Brian. There is, if we're looking at things like that, there is in the backyard a very magnificent tree, which is clearly older than any of the houses around it, and just a massive tree. I'd be shocked if it isn't over 200 years old, which is the kind of tree you see occasionally in Port Dalhousie and places like that, but not often downtown. You know, I would love to see something like that included as a protected feature, you know, depending on, I don't know what appetite, you know, the committee or council would have for that, but it really is spectacular. I tried to take a photo of it, but it doesn't do it justice. So just a thought.
I don't see why you couldn't maybe add, like, say, you know, a mature tree vegetation and garden style landscaping as you know, under the heritage attributes.
I I think this might be a question for James because we've had this conversation many times about heritage trees and specific plantings. Like as you're talking, like plants die, trees die, and it's something that they are constantly changing and in flux. And it's not quite the same as like protecting a building or a structure which you can maintain and repair. And so I know that there is like as much as we'd like to see the garden, the mature vegetation and the mature tree and the garden style landscaping be retained. Like it's very difficult to actually um, implement that. So I think I think it's so James, what do you think about including the tree and the mature vegetation and the garden, um, you know, understanding that they all do contribute to the character of the property and it
Mhm.
is a magnificent tree. Like it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, so through the chair, I think there's a few things. One, I'm always really apprehensive to include vegetation. Like Lauren said, it can be a challenge because these things, yep, do die. They evolve. Things happen to them, and it turns into, well, does trimming the tree become an alteration? Like it's stuff like that that can cause, lots of questions and concerns for an owner down the road. I think in St. Catharines, there's only one property maybe that has vegetation included in it, and that's Rodman Hall. I think the back slope there has a garden that was planted, and that one was included. But I don't know of any others. And I think the other part there's two other parts that I want to mention. One is um, it can be hard to manage from a uh, kind of alterations and approvals perspective. So most items that go through the city require, so if you require a heritage permit, you have to apply because maybe it's triggered by a building permit. And so we're able to then flag those automatically. As soon as somebody comes in and says, I want to do XYZ to my building, we automatic that application gets forwarded to us and we're able to jump in at that point. If somebody decides to remove, part of their garden, it would be very difficult to kind of monitor that, right? And I think the other part too is the goal of heritage attributes is to tie those back to the reasons for designation as well. And so I think there has to be a strong case from a cultural heritage value perspective that the garden contributes to the cultural heritage value of the property. I don't know how much we know about the garden and how long it's been there and why it was planted. But I mean, it certainly looks nice, and I think it contributes to the building. But does it express the cultural heritage value in the same way that the barge board does, right? Like that would be the key question, I guess. And then down the road, there will be a future owner here 50 years from now or 100 years from now or whenever. Um, are they a gardener? And as somebody who has tried to start a garden, it's a difficult thing to do. And not all of us are Brian and can, have a really strong green thumb. And so I would not want to hamstring somebody and, penalize them for their inability to maintain, what is considered a heritage attribute. So I would be careful there a little bit. Obviously, it's a great garden, like, and it really helps with the visual appearance of the house. But those are just my concerns. Take them or leave them, I guess.
Well, what about if we change the wording of that to just say the property's setting, including the low ornamental metal fence and landscaping, and just leave out the mature vegetation and garden style?
I think that would be potentially okay. I think the goal here would be really to suggest that like you wouldn't want to see a front addition. Not that I think that would ever be proposed here and wouldn't be covered by some of the other attributes, but the idea that it is within kind of a setting, including that metal fence and everything, I think is important, but you don't want to hamstring somebody with some sort of onerous requirement that they have to maintain a garden that, they might not be able to maintain. So
Yeah, I mean, because this way we're
landscaping might
just
be okay.
because this way we're just doing kind of a generic and landscaping, which could be anything, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And from I think the goal really would be to avoid any sort of, to have the ability to avoid any major changes, right? Where if somebody wanted to build something, let's say at the front of this house, and I think a lot of these, some of these other key attributes would kind of restrict them from building, let's say a new front addition, like a new porch or something like that, right? Um, like the goal of that attribute would be to say, you need to maintain this landscaping because and restrict the ability to add in front of the house because that's a feature, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think I saw Adrian's hand go up first.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in my 2 cents if it's helpful. We've moved on a little bit. I think James stole my thunder. That's okay. But in some of the historic property experiences that I've dealt with, where there are, parks staff who have a modern eye, and the heritage property that's not modern, sometimes the helpful part in this designation would be to stop, not from like taking care of the garden or replacing plantings or anything like that, but replacing the entire character of the garden with something super modern, like straight lines and hedges that wouldn't have maybe been a part of the property originally, black mulch, all the kind of like very super modern style. And so if the landscaping is part of the character, which is leading to the designation, including wording like James is saying, that's like maybe landscaping in the character befitting the property or something like that, so that you don't end up with landscaping that doesn't fit in the neighborhood or on the property, or even species or selections that are not great to the keeping of the character of the house. Not that that garden is what the garden looked like when it was there, but it's probably closer to the style of gardening that they had when the house was built. And just like the house itself, the decoration, the gingerbreading, all that stuff, gardening, it has style as well. So it you wouldn't want to see something completely modern replace that garden. At the same time, we don't want to tell the homeowner that they can't trim their plants or replace plantings with other similar plantings or whatever, that contribute to the style. So I don't know if that helps or confuses, but hope that helps.
It's a good point. I wonder if we put in something like and appropriate landscaping.
I think that might cause problems in terms of what does appropriate mean. So,
mm,
so I know Lorraine has her hand up, and I think Robert did as well.
yeah, Lorraine.
We've kind of gone around this already, but I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there. I think we make it the minimum wording as possible, because we don't want to limit the homeowner. But also, when you look at the 906, I couldn't find any examples where it said anything really about landscaping, and 906 criteria didn't have anything about landscaping. So it's the idea that it has to sort of, match the house. So I would agree with what Adrian is saying more than adding a lot of details like the garden, just making it, something about suitable to the house or something. The very minimum that we can put in and still satisfy the need that we feel about keeping the landscape. I don't know if that muddied it further, but I just think it's got to be the minimum possible because we don't want to restrict the homeowner in terms of what they do for landscaping. I think that's asking too much of them.
Yeah, I actually think how it's written now is about as bare minimum as it gets, right? And I get
Yeah.
Adrian's take that they could do something a lot more modern, and that this wouldn't capture that. But I think the main goal would be to reduce the possibility that somebody would, let's say
hmm
pave over it or something like that, right? Like something
hmm
that would absolutely be detrimental to the property rather than the type of plantings that are there, right? Like I think the goal would be
Yeah.
to want to at least maintain a certain standard that is nice to see with this type of house rather than something that would deter
hmm
or be a negative impact.
hmm Okay. Well, I would be fine with it just in its absolute kind of minimum that we have now for the landscaping.
Established landscaping.
That as well. Like, what if there's a plant disaster, like, some of those shrubs that caught a virus last year and they all died? I mean, we don't want to put that kind of onus on this homeowner. I think it's just landscaping.
And I think also what we could do, and sorry, I know there's a bunch of people with their hands up. We could take this back to the owner as well and see what they're comfortable with, because I think, you want to work with them to find solutions as well.
And this homeowner sounds like he's been very, very cooperative and supportive. So definitely, I think that's a great idea, James. I think we don't want to limit him in any way, shape, or form. So, like, what if the tree gets a blight? I mean, I know it's a lovely tree, but still, I think that we have to just sort of make it landscaping and end it.
Mark.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if we do have heritage landscape guidelines, if that could be separate, or if we can put like a term like garden layout, so that doesn't really restrict them planting anything else. It's just the layout on how it looks with the character of the building too. It's still general.
Yeah, and I think, Lauren, I don't mean to jump in and step on your toes at all, but I think when I think about the attributes, I'm thinking about, like, if 25 years from now, the heritage planner looks at these and has to kind of interpret what was intended. And so when they see garden layout, they might think, oh, the specific way in which it is laid out currently, right? And so it might be a challenge to go that specific, even though it feels like from our perspective that it's kind of a more general term. Like they might interpret it as, that's how it's always been, so that's how it should remain, right? So I don't know. It's a good point, Mark, but that would just be my take on it.
I do have another question. I know that we just see stucco cladding. Do we know if it's been like if it's wood siding underneath, or is it brick? Was it strapped and then cladded or rendered? Or is there cladding underneath? Is it brick? Do we know?
While we're discussing with the owner, he said that it was wood underneath. We couldn't confirm that, but it's a frame building with wood underneath.
John Crawley.
Yes, through the chair. I was just wondering about the gardening. What about, we have to consider city bylaws? Because I know there are a lot of jurisdictions around that, they don't want these natural gardens in the front of a house, which is beyond my comprehension. But I just wonder if we have to take city bylaws into consideration in this.
Yeah, so I think through the chair, as far as I'm aware, they're currently okay in terms of how their garden looks. I don't know if the owners had been made aware of any issues. Certainly looks like they take care of their gardens, so I can't imagine there's many complaints about them. We don't have a tree bylaw at the city, a private tree bylaw, so there's no real concerns there. Yeah, I think if there were ever to be if, heaven forbid, a future owner were to let the grass grow really long and there's property standards issues, the fact that it's a heritage property, it would be flagged and we'd be able to jump in and be part of the conversation. So at least we'd be able to provide a little bit of background there and help.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, did you have another comment?
No, I just found the raising hand button for the first time, so I'm just using it, and I just didn't lower my hand yet.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, Robert, you have a
Hello.
question?
Hello. I haven't found the button yet. My concern here is that we include that at all regarding the front gardening. As I recall, I've seen a picture. It's the first time I've seen it about a 50-year-old 3 Elizabeth that was included in this, and it didn't look like it had the kind of garden that we're currently looking at. And I'm just wondering if it wasn't, then this garden has obviously been added by somebody over the last 5 decades. And if that's the case, then I don't think we should be including the gardening in front of the house at all in our heritage attributes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we could find that picture again.
Oh yeah. Through the chair. So yes, so we know that the yard has been through many different iterations. We know that what's there now, historically probably is more accurate to what it would have been. And things do evolve and change, and it hasn't been consistent over the whole length of the house being there. I think what I have here is I've removed the landscaping and just the property's setting. And like that, I feel like that might be inclusive of, it's setting within the lot, including kind of those landscape elements, and not to be so prescriptive. Saying that the property setting is something that is important. It does, contribute to its context and its contextual value. But there maybe are many possible expressions of that. And so maybe just removing landscaping entirely and just having the property setting kind of express that contextual value. Yeah.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Okay.
Andrew, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think Lauren kind of hit what I was going to say. So I know what he mentioned at one point. There was a photo of that front garden had been a parking platform. So I don't know that certainly the landscaping in the front we can't track to any long term existence.
Okay. So other than that, I think everybody seems to be comfortable with the rest of the attributes. I mean, I didn't think this gardening discussion was going to take up this much time. So I guess, are we then moving on to the motion? We recommend the designation of the property, 3 Elizabeth Street under Part 4, and that the statement of cultural heritage value or interest and list of attributes for 3 Elizabeth Street as amended through discussion be accepted and included in the notice of intention to designate. Is everybody happy with this motion? Robert, you've got your hand up.
Just that I would be happy to make this motion.
Okay. If there's no further questions or commentary about the motion, then I guess everybody who's in favor? Done. Thank you, everybody. So moving on to item 7.2, which is Part 4 designation of 143 to 153 St. Paul Crescent. Lauren, you'll be taking over this discussion, and Andrew, I guess you're bowing out for the time being.
I'm going to bow out. I just wanted to mention one thing prior to the discussion. Mackenzie stuck around to watch this. Mackenzie, who you're all getting to know, she's also the project manager for the restoration work at this property as well. So she's very interested in the discussion as well and watching along with us.
Okay. So, Lauren, take it away.
I'll just set everything up here. There we go. All of my buttons disappeared. Share here. Wrong. Okay. There you go. So, in the same kind of structure as presentation for 3 Elizabeth, the property at 143 to 153 St. Paul Crescent is another property that the designation subcommittee has been considering. It's also currently listed on the Heritage Register. The Part 4 designation was initiated at the request of the property owner. It's officially Main Street Services, Inc., to support a planned restoration and revitalization project at the site. In order to make sure that the heritage value and attributes are well defined, and also to gain access to things like the heritage grant and other funding available. The designation subcommittee has been looking at this property for a while. There is another historical overview, which is excellent, written by Brian, which is attached to the memo that was circulated. And we've also been through the 906 evaluation and prepared a draft statement of cultural heritage value or interest in heritage attributes for this property. The subcommittee found the property met multiple criteria for designation under OREG 906. And so the subject lands are located on what's historically multiple properties, but recently, as a part of their sale, they became one solid property, which is why there are multiple property addresses associated with it, but historically known as Corporation Plan 2, lots 2169, 2170, and 2171 here. And then 2172 is the property on Pelham Road, One Pelham Road, that was found to have no cultural heritage value or interest recently. These buildings are situated at the corner of St. Paul Crescent, which is the historic alignment of St. Paul and Pelham Road in the Western Hill neighborhood. And this is one property, they'll all be under one designation, but we do distinguish between the different buildings on the site. We have the Neptune Fire Hall here, the Voissard block, and the McGuire Voissard building. And together they all do form, a consistent streetscape, and these ones being physically linked. So it is appropriate to consider them together. But just so that for your reference, what we're referring to when we talk about these two, or when I talk about these different structures within the property. So the Neptune Fire Hall here was built circa 1881 to 1882 by the Neptune Hose Company number 3, which was organized in 1887. It's a 2-story flat-roofed brick structure with a symmetrical 3-bayed facade. It has Italianate features, including the arched window openings. There's a circular medallion here. This window opening, which is a former opening. There's stone keystones over the segmental arch over the windows. These very long, narrow sash windows, and this kind of like circular. What is it called? Not a pediment, but I'll show you here. here, just like it extends from the roof line above the roof line, which you can see in the photos here. It retains its original orange brick, which is now painted brown. It is the last surviving Victorian era fire hall in St. Catharines. And we looked into it. There are very few fire halls from this era in even on Ontario. This here is the Fossard block. It is because it was constructed circa 1886, 1887 by Benjamin Desire Fossard, a local carpenter and grocer. It is a two-story vernacular commercial block with Italian detailing, including arched brick windows with hood molds and stone keystones, an overhanging wood cornice with paired brackets and dentils. The ground store storefronts have been modified and altered over the time, but the upper story still has a lot of that original integrity. It was originally the home to the B.D. Vossard and Sons Grocery, which is important in the Western Hill neighborhood for over 3 decades. And here we have some kind of historical photos of what it used to look like with the original commercial storefronts. And you can kind of see the how the upper stories really are intact in character. And then there's the McGuire-Vossard building at the corner. It was built between 1880 and 1882, likely by Michael McGuire, who then sold it to William Gilland and later the Vossard family. It's prominently sited at the corner, and the way that it is aligned aligns with the historic alignment of St. Paul. So you can kind of see it. It kind of bends around here. The architectural features are very similar to the adjacent Fossard block. And include these segmental brick arches, hooded hood molds over the window, the stone keystones, the Italianate cornice with paired bracket and dentils, and then also there's this firewall feature which exists between the two buildings. It has been lost on the other side. So historically, the Neptune Fire Hall is, example of municipal service infrastructure in the Western Hill area, and it was converted to residential apartments in the 20th century. The Vossard block was operated at this location, serving Western Hill from the 1880s until 1920, and the as was the Maguire Vossard building, which had tenants such as the Frank's Barbershop, Mugs and Meeples, and the Lost Chapter Brews. Again, a very high level. I do encourage you to read through the historical overview for this property because it's very interesting. And then contextually, these buildings form a visually cohesive and historically significant streetscape. It is a cornerstone landmark in the Western Hill neighborhood. It's situated directly adjacent to the Edith Cavell Public School. I think we're going to go here. Where's this here? Where you can kind of see, these are some amazing drone images that Christian, who's the student planner, took of the property. You can kind of see its surrounding context. So here's the Edith Cavell Public School, which is 1919 public school. And it maintains strong historical connections to the 19th century development patterns of this property, which is formerly part of the Rodman Hall estate lands. Yeah. So that is a very high level overview of this collection of buildings on this property. And like 3 Elizabeth, I will go through the 906 evaluation with everybody. Does anyone have any questions or concerns or comments at this time? Sec. When I put this, oh, there it is. All right. Let's rearrange some windows. Okay, so as mentioned, it has to meet at least 2 criteria. As the designation subcommittee went through this, so we determined that the buildings are representative examples of late 19th century vernacular commercial architecture with Italian influences. So it does meet this criterion. The building has typical artistic detailing and craftsmanship. The building also is typical technical or scientific achievement. The buildings have strong historical associations with a number of important figures and organizations, including the Vossard family and the Neptune Hose Company number 3. So it does meet the historical and associative value criterion for those associations. The property does maintain contributes to the understanding of the Western Hill community and its urban evolution. The properties have no known significant architect or builder or designer at this time. And the property has contextual value as a major anchor at the intersection, forming continuous streetscape that reflects the historic commercial character of Western Hill. The property is historically and visually linked to its surroundings through those shared lot lines and historical lot configuration within the streetscape and its connection to the community. And it is also a landmark within the Western Hill neighborhood. Right. Questions, comments? So we also put together a draft statement of cultural heritage value or interest. I did meet with Andrew, who is a representative of the owner, to go through this list and also discuss the property's value and the heritage attributes, especially within the context of future redevelopment and restoration of the property. So description of property, the property at 143, 153 St. Paul Crescent forms a contiguous row of late 19th century commercial block buildings located at the intersection of St. Paul Crescent and Pelham Road within the Western Hill neighborhood of St. Catharines. The block includes the Neptune Fire Hall, the Vossard block, and the McGuire Vossard building, each reflecting modest Italian vernacular architecture with distinctive decorative brickwork, arched windows, and cornice details. Together, these properties form a prominent and visually cohesive streetscape at this key corner site. For design or physical value, the Neptune Fire Hall, I've separated it into the 3 throughout. The Neptune Fire Hall is a rare surviving example of a Victorian era fire hall in St. Catharines, constructed circa 1881 to 1882. The building exhibits restrained Italian influences, including decorative brickwork, segmentally arched window openings, and projecting cornice and paired brackets and dentils, despite some side and rear alterations. The building retains its original form, fenestration, and detailing, making it a significant local example of civic architecture of the period. The Vossard block is a representative example of 19th century vernacular commercial block architecture with Italian elements, including arched window recesses, bracketed cornice, and a symmetrical facade composition. The upper story retains a high degree of integrity, preserving original brickwork, fenestration, and cornice details, despite the storefront alterations at grade. And the McGuire-Vaussard building is distinguished by its front facade, which is aligned with the original curve of the street and provides a visual anchor at the intersection of St. Paul Crescent and Pelham Road. The building features Italian architectural detailing with a prominent cornice, arched window recesses, and decorative brickwork. The upper story retains original materials proportions, conveying its commercial character and integrity. For historical or associative value, Neptune Fire Hall is historically associated with Neptune Hose Company Number 3, which first organized in 1877 and disbanded in 1920, and reflects the early development of municipal services in the Western Hill neighborhood. As the only remaining Victoria era fire hall in St. Catharines, and one of the first few comparable examples in Ontario, it holds significant historical value tied to the city's civic development. The Voissard block is historically associated with Benjamin D. Voissard, a prominent local grocer and carpenter who established the Voissard and Sons grocery at this location in the 1880s. The business, which included grocery, coal, and general merchandise sales, served the Western Hill community for over 3 decades. The building reflects the area's evolution in mixed use commercial as a mixed use commercial corridor and stands as a testament to the Vossard's family contribution to the local economy and community life. And the McGuire-Vossard building, originally built by Michael McGuire and later owned by the Vossard family, the building reflects the evolution of the site as a key commercial node. Its history includes association with key local merchants and civic leaders, contributing to the broader understanding of the Western Hills commercial, residential, and social development. And for contextual value, Neptune Fire Hall at the situated in the intersection of St. Paul Crescent and Pelham Road. The Neptune Fire Hall occupies a highly visible lot, reinforcing its landmark status in the Western Hill neighborhood. The building's form, scale, and distinctive architectural detailing contributes to the area's historic character, while its civic function is historically anchored in the community sense of a place and safety. The Fossard block contributes to a cohesive streetscape of the late 19th century commercial buildings that define the historic core of Western Hill. The building's massing, materials, and detailing reinforce the block's historic commercial character and supports the area's identity as a neighborhood center for commerce and services. And the McGuire-Vossard building, occupying a corner lot with a distinctive facade. The McGuire-Vossard building serves as a visual anchor at a key intersection. Its prominent location, historic commercial uses, and architecture form and contribute to the continuity and integrity of the Western Hill streetscape, making it a significant part of the neighborhood's historic built environment. We'll stop here and have a conversation before we get into heritage attributes.
Yep. Maria, your hand's been up for a while.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but I think, Lauren, you mentioned that the Neptune Fire Hall, which is lovely, was converted in the 20th century to residential apartments. Does that mean that large open area that we saw in one of the photographs showing the horses, that large open fire hall area is no longer there? Behind the front wall because it's residential apartments now?
I think it might be offices now, but it was residential at one point.
Okay. Other
think.
than that large
But
open
what-
area.
So are you talking about this entranceway? Which large open area?
Well, in some of the pictures that you sent with that report to us showed a picture of horses pulling, I suppose, the fire truck or fire wagon.
Okay.
And I presume
Yeah.
that was in fact the fire hall itself.
Yeah.
So
Let's
that
see
big
if I can
open
find
area in which the fire truck would have been in as a
Oh,
direct
yeah.
parking area.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that-
You mean like the garage? Yeah.
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 Is that no longer there and is replaced by sectioned off apartments or offices?
I suppose that would be a question for if Mackenzie, is that something that you can, because in lieu of Andrew, you can comment on?
Yeah, I can. That's actually it's living space. So it's an apartment right now.
Okay.
But if you're asking about like partition walls, yeah, there's partition walls in there, but they can they're not permanent, if that's what you're asking.
So it's no longer the large open fire hall pull-in area. It's partitioned off for modern living.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. And where you mentioned the 3-bay front facade, Lauren, what does that mean?
It's how the building is organized into bays.
Oh,
So
as
I
in
can,
bay windows or?
it's yeah, let me.
Window openings, door openings.
Yeah,
Oh,
a bay is it's like a way of architectural description that describes how many sections there are to a building and the kind of um the pattern and kind of repetition of that. And so we have like one here, one in the center, and one at the side, and these would be considered 3 bays. Um,
okay.
for example, this building would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bays
Gotcha.
there. One,
Okay.
two, three, four, five, and this, yeah. So it's just a way of describing the architectural sections. Yeah. And a
Thank
bay
you.
window, again, it is a window that kind of like goes is within that bay. Yeah, they have the same origin for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm not seeing any other questions, so
Okay.
I guess we can move on.
Yes. Let me just pull up the right one. It's this one. There we go. So heritage attributes for the Neptune Fire Hall, the 2-story flat roofed form and original massing, the symmetrical 3-bay front facade with recessed brick panels, the central segmentally arched window opening at grade, the flanking tall, narrow, segmentally arched windows, the paired double hung sash windows within tall blind arches on the 2nd story, the cut stone windowsills, the cut stone keystones, central circular opening within the roof line, which is that kind of medallion feature. The roof line, including the arched parapet, that's the word, flanked by projecting cornices with paired brackets and dentils. The central, oh, that's in there twice. The orange red brick construction material, the prominent siding flush to the sidewalk, and its stone foundation. Any questions, comments, additions to the heritage attributes?
Would there have been a basement section to any of these buildings?
There's actually a really amazing basement. I had Andrew bring me through it, and I have some photos, but it's very, very tall, and very cool down there. Let's see if I can pull these up here. Here we go. Here's some photos from inside the basement underneath the buildings. And I think there's space there for storage for materials for the grocer, and at least one space you could tell was definitely used as cold storage. So yeah, it's very neat. Mark, do you have a question or
Yeah,
anything to add? Yeah.
yeah. A question. If someone were to be like very ambitious on this building, um, what would happen if they wanted to recreate, like rebuild the parapet from its original structure?
Yeah, that would be really neat. Yep. I think we have, here's the thing is we have the here. We have the images that show that more or less. Maybe not from, I don't know if we have anything from like a front on angle. But I think generally the way we approach things, in Heritage and as a committee is we'd look for either, historic evidence of that and
Okay.
make an evaluation of any sort of application or permit based on that. Yeah. So it would be something that like not required, but is definitely possible, even with this designation and with the
Okay.
attributes as described. Yeah.
Yes.
I think, did I see Holly's hand up for a question or a comment?
I think I'm not sure if I was mistaken, but I remember you, Brian, commenting about wasn't there something to do with like the casings made out of some type of iron? Was this the on this project?
Not on these buildings, no.
Okay, okay, thank you.
That was the Queenston and Geneva.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Another day. Okay, so for the Voissard block, heritage attributes, the two-story flat-roofed red brick form in original massing, symmetrical primary facade with arched brick window recesses, double-hung window sash windows, double-hung wood sash windows with painted surrounds, overhanging wood cornice with paired brackets and dentils, cut stone windowsills, cut stone keystones, intact upper story brickwork and window openings. Building's alignment flush to the sidewalk and its stone foundation. Questions, comments, additions for the heritage attributes? Okay. And the McGuire Voissard building. Two-story side gable red brick form and original massing. Corner facade transitioning between street frontages following the 19th century street alignment. The regular rhythm of the front elevation second story windows set within the arched brick recesses. The front and side elevation window openings. Segmental brick arches over the front elevation window openings with projecting hood molds, overhanging wood cornice with paired brackets and dentils, central window within the bay at that is not in the right place. No. The surviving original brickwork and window proportions at the upper story. Building's prominent. I think we maybe got a little bit. Anyway, building's prominent corner light sighting with continuous street wall presence, remaining firewall between the two structures, the brick chimney, the cut stone windowsills, cut stones, keystones, and the stone foundation. One of the heritage attributes from the fire hall ended up in here, but we're good. Any edits, additions, removals?
I think it looks good.
Okay. I guess important.
Robert, you've got a question?
Yes, for the chair. If we could just bump back to, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I've lost this all. If we could just bump back to the Voissard block.
Yeah.
Intact upper story brickwork and window openings. Actually, there were some changes there, were there not? Not necessarily all intact.
Yes. So I think this is recognizing the ones that are intact.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yep.
fair. But there was a change in the window openings.
Yeah, you can see here one that has been blocked up, but I think the intent is to
Right, the second one
that
from the left. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So
intact except one.
except for yes, I think we're saying that all of these, but not necessarily this one.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And important to note that there are these, small single-story additions and concrete block additions, and those aren't included in the heritage attributes, here and at the side here.
Otherwise, looks good.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Lauren, at the back of the building when you were showing the pictures? Are those fire escapes anything to do with they've been updated? Is that original to the building?
I mean, I imagine they're to do with the residential uses of the building, and I doubt they're original. more for safety reasons. Yeah.
They're probably 1920s edition, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Should we pull up the motion for this one?
That would be a fine idea.
Okay, let's do it. Second. There you go.
Okay, so the motion is that the advisory committee recommends that council designates the property at 143 to 53 St. Paul Crescent under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act for its cultural heritage value or interest, and that the statement of cultural heritage value or interest in the list of heritage attributes as amended through discussion be accepted and included in the notion of intention to designate. So if that motion sounds okay, do we have somebody who wishes to make that motion? Is that John Crawley who wishes to do it?
Yes.
Okay. And all in favor? Okay, that's done.
I just wanted to say to the designation subcommittee members, because everyone has been working on all this, has really been a team effort, these two designations, and I know that we have a bunch more that we're working on that are coming up, but I just want to say thank you to everybody for their contributions, and yeah, thank you.
But the best are coming.
Yeah, still so much more to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add, I'm gonna echo that with Lauren. Especially the property on St. Paul Crescent. I mean, that's really like 3 or 4 buildings in one, right? So you're looking at 5 properties that are currently pretty much undergoing research and evaluation and everything all simultaneously. So that takes a lot of work. So much appreciated for the efforts by people on this committee.
Okay. So, moving on, are we doing the downtown block party next or the downtown HCD? Because you've got one is 7.4 and one is 7.3.
Oh no, I think either way they might both be short. Whatever, chair's choice.
How about if we give your voice a little break and maybe do the downtown HCD study? So I guess we'll be hearing from James about that.
Sure. So through the chair, as you are all aware, the HCD study went to council a few weeks ago. It feels like a long time ago now, but it was actually only a couple weeks ago. And they had a few questions about our report, and so it got referred back to us. Lauren just finished writing the little memo that we are providing council. It'll be posted publicly relatively soon, probably in the next week. And it'll be going, or next week or two, actually. And it'll be going to council again on July 14th, where they'll be basically the counselors. There were concerns because the 3 counselors weren't there in attendance that day. And because it was such a big item, they didn't feel that it was fair to deliberate on it at that time. So with a more full council in a few weeks from now, they'll be determining whether or not we'll move on to the plan phase. And not sure what that will look like, but hopefully we'll get a positive outcome and we'll move on from there. Actually, one of the things that will happen beyond that point is Lauren is going to be the project manager for it going forward. It allows me to take it off my plate into the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. And so Lauren has been working with me really closely for the last, I don't know, Lauren, how long have you been here? Almost a year now.
Almost a year, yeah.
Yeah, so she's gonna take it. I'm gonna pass the baton. She's gonna run with it, and yeah, she'll take the lead from there. And I'll still be around to help and whatnot. But yeah, so I don't know if there were any questions about the council meeting. Thanks to those of you who came out. The delegations were fantastic. I think everybody that spoke did a really great job and represented this group really, really well. And those of you that were in attendance, when you're up doing a presentation, it's nice to see friendly faces in the crowd. So I really appreciated the support from this group. And yeah, I think it really mattered. So thanks for stepping up when it was needed, and I think you guys provided council with the advocacy that you were supposed to provide. So yeah, much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and of course we had some good press coverage about the council meeting in the Standard, a couple of letters to the editor about it, and in the recent Port Reporter that came out just the other day, there was a little synopsis, a little letter from John Bacher about the council meeting, and apparently he wrote a longer article about the council meeting, but they couldn't fit it into the current Port Reporter issue. So that's going to be coming in the next issue of the magazine. So I guess we don't need any motion to receive, or do we want to make a motion to receive?
Can I feel like? Yeah.
Does anybody want to make the motion to receive? Mark, thank you. And all in favor of that? Lorraine, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say that the city councilors were very um, enthusiastic about how the report was written. They credited all of the work that was done by city staff and in writing that report, and found that it provided a lot of necessary information. So kudos to James and Lauren, if you worked on the writing as well. But I know James, they were very, very complimentary about all of the work that was done and the fullness of that report. So congratulations to you for a job well done.
Thanks, Lorraine. I think between my report and the actual our consultant's report, I think they had 800 pages of stuff to read. So I don't think there was much more we could add. So Folsom definitely, yeah, we tried our best to make sure they had the full picture, and I think we succeeded there. But I didn't. I felt sad, or felt bad for them having to go through it all because there was a lot to
Mhm.
digest in a short time. But
But I want to make sure you know that they were very appreciative of the
oh,
work that you put into it.
thanks, Lorraine.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on, I guess, to item 7.4, the downtown block party planning. Lauren, I guess you're going to lead us through that.
Just a very brief update, mostly to keep me on track with planning. I've been speaking with James about planning, and speaking with all of you about planning for the downtown block party. And just to update you right now, the plan is we will have a booth with a tent. And I'll be there all day. We're going to put together some resources, some maps, and some posters, whatever Adrian has for us, and whatever we have in our collection to share with the public. Brian and Adrian you volunteered to do um, some walking tours, which is wonderful. And Lorraine is going to be helping me out in the morning in the early session or the early shift, working with the public. So I think we're in a pretty good place. If anybody you find some availability or has any interest for helping me at the booth in the afternoon, just let me know. It'd be great to have that team. And James has offered to help me either set up or take down everything. So just letting you know that that's the plan. If anyone else has anything that they want to contribute, materials or time, just reach out to me, and I'll be keeping everybody in the loop as that planning proceeds. Yeah.
Okay. Adrian, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just that if anybody wants something specific in terms of downtown maps, I think we should focus on where we're going to be. But if anybody wants something specific, or if you have a photo that you'd like me to print that you like talking about, it's nice to have props sometimes and prompts. So just let me know if there's something specific that you want. Otherwise, I think Lauren and I will kind of pick a couple of things for people to peruse at the booth. We'll try and keep it simple though, because again, it can get really crowded and complicated and stuff like that, and expensive if we print too many things. And then Brian and I are meeting next week to chat about what our walking tours might look like. So wish us luck. Hopefully we can curate something that isn't 17 hours long.
One thing that might be good to have at that booth, I don't know if we had a copy of it last year, is the that Sabiston, or sorry, the Brosius bird's eye view, the 1875 bird's eye view.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Yep, I probably already have something usable. I'd have to check, but probably have something already laminated. So and probably like a oh yeah, I definitely do. I think it's in like a 2x3 or a 3x4, so it's kind of big, but I'll bring an easel or something like that and a couple of backup plans for wind and rain and all that stuff.
And I think from last year we had the Marcus Smith map
Okay.
as well, so that's probably taken care of. Mark, your hand was up first.
Yeah, it would be, in depends where the booth is. It would be cool to have a photo of St. Paul Street, like where the booth is sitting, like from like 100 years ago,
Sure.
if we have. But I don't
Yeah.
know where the booth is going to be. So that could
Lauren,
be on an easel as well, so people
yeah.
can look in the direction of the street and see a before and after.
Yeah,
That would
absolutely.
be that'd be super
Lauren,
neat.
do you have their layout yet or
No, we don't.
okay.
I followed up with them today
Yeah.
to see where they were with that. If we have any sort of ability to request, maybe maybe we can look at that because
Yeah,
that would
let
be
me have a
great.
think on it. They're probably
Yeah.
still accepting vendors, so they probably don't have a final layout yet, but I can connect with Kat and see as well if when she hears that idea, she'll want to give us a spot. So
That's
yeah,
great.
that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Oh,
last year we had a whole bunch of old postcards of St. Paul Street. I think that's what we put up.
That's right.
Um, like on one board we had like 8 or 10 or so. And I'm sure some of those kind of I think we ran the whole gamut of St. Paul Street, right? So
Mhm.
we can probably hopefully use one of those if we needed to. Or we have the flexibility at least, depending on where they want to put us.
one thing that might be really neat to have on display. We just recently, some of you have seen them. We got some stereoscope views of downtown St. Catharines that turned up at a flea market in northern France. And the professor who bought them in France scanned them, sent them to David Sharon at Brock University, and David has very generously shared them with lots of people and said, use them how you wish. And some of those are shots looking straight down St. Paul Street in about 1870.
Oh, that's perfect.
So, maybe if I send some of those to either Adrian or Lorraine or Lauren, we can maybe print some of those up and have those as display items because they're really cool.
Yeah, I think maybe let's send me everything, send me and Lauren everything, and then we can kind of pick and choose a bit. We'll try to bring some extras just in case we have extra space.
Right.
Lauren, it's a 10 by 10 tent, is that right?
I believe so, but I can get dimensions for you
Yeah,
too.
it's just
Yeah.
like a regular
It's
a
a regular,
regular
yeah,
little.
regular,
Yeah.
regular
So
booth
we
tent. Yeah.
are kind of limited in space, but we could change things up throughout the day. It's a long day. You could have a different things on display throughout the day. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I don't really have a budget for this, but that's okay. I'll figure it out.
Maybe I'll look at if we have any sort of like education or I'll look at our budget too.
Okay, cool.
And see what's there for us to use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lorraine, you had a question?
Yeah, a comment. I was actually going to make the same comment as Mark. I think that would be a great idea. And I was going to give the example of last year. So last year we were sort of in front of the old Diana Suites.
Okay.
And we had lots of conversation about that being there and as a former location. And what was great too was that we could talk about how the building is being reused, adaptively reused as a, brewery and the pizza location. And so that was a great conversation to have about, this former landmark now being reused for another great purpose. So something like that would be very helpful in our conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if we end up in the same location, there's the building right next door, which used to be Bijonette and Joy. The
Mhm.
tailoring establishments. So, that could be another building we could focus on. But anyway, I don't know if there's any other discussion about the block party. I mean, it sounds like it's a plan. It's going to happen. Okay. Should we make a motion to receive the information from Lauren? Mark, thank you. And all in favor of that? Okay. Miscellaneous items. I don't think we have any.
Oh, I have one, if that's
Oh,
okay.
yep,
Just
sure.
the briefest of updates about July 8th, which is the unveiling of the Global Famine Way Monument. I can't remember if I told you, but the concrete pad has been poured. Um, so thank you for that, because that's the committee's contribution to the project. So hooray. Um, the interpretive panel has been printed. The monument will be installed on July 3rd, next week, and then in time for the unveiling on July 8th. I hope everyone received the invitation. I think we sent it to a bunch of committees through our liaisons, and so hopefully everybody got an invitation for that. There's going to be refreshments and music as a part of the celebration. The Irish Music Festival are the main partners on this project, so there's going to be some really fun Irish music accompanying the event. So hopefully everyone can make it, and hopefully it's not too hot.
Okay, thanks. So designation subcommittees, I don't think we have any updates with that. Will be the
Very, no, sorry. Very,
our
very
committee will be
quickly.
meeting next week, I guess, or the week after.
Yeah, very quickly. Moving ahead, I guess this committee is starting to see those designation the results. But 2 Queenston and 38 Geneva, and something that we will be coming to this committee soon. And work continues on 1 Welland, 219 Merritt, and 260 Vine. So.
Guess we have no items of correspondence to relate. I mean, I've talked about the port reporter coming out. Lorraine?
I was just going to ask a question. The description that we had for the location on St. Paul Crescent, as far as the Vassard Grocery, there's a very similar location in Merton, the Richardson Grocery, and many of the ways that, or the way it was described in the last designation submission we looked at, would absolutely fit the Richardson Grocery. I don't know if that's on your list or not. But it's much of the same as far as, obviously the person who owned it was different, but it was a part of the landscape of the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. So could something like that be partially reused with some added information? Is that something you're looking at right now in downtown Merritton on Merritt Street?
Um, through the chair, I don't think that's currently on our list, but we can add it. And we are kind of going through a phase where we're starting to relook at prioritization. So if you want to give me, and we can do reuse language if it's appropriate. It's like you using doing a typology, for example. So can you send me the address, and we
Sure.
can add that to our prioritization list.
And I
We
can
have
send you some
a list
details
of
as
cool
well.
stuff. Yeah, that'd be
Right.
wonderful. Yeah,
Thanks.
ongoing list of properties that we should be designating.
And then it becomes a future article for Meriton Matters.
Oh, Brian.
I see through your plan. Okay.
I'm not going to say anything.
Our next meeting will be on not June the 26th. It'll be sometime in July.
I think it's actually the 30. It's like the 31st. I had the wrong address number. It is July 31st. Yeah, it's the 31st, last day.
Okay. So, I guess that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn or to terminate? Lorraine, thank you. And all in favor? Okay, so the clock on my wall says that it's 4:30. So thank you, everybody. And
Amazing
we will
time.
see you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you on.
Yeah.
Bye, thanks.
See you next
Thanks,
month.
all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.